Welcome to Razor Labs Expert Series, episodes of interviews in which Razor Labs professionals talk about their experience, research and development, product management, AI, market disruption, business and innovation. Today we are having a conversation with David Rafael, VP Research and Development at Razor Labs.
Happy to be here.
Hi, David.
Excited. So I got to Razor Labs after being an engineer for almost a decade now. 7 years this August.
Wow.
Yeah. And when I came to Razor Labs, I met the founders, but obviously were very enthusiastic to do something grand. We did some very cool stuff. I think even the first projects in the mining sector, which back in the day we weren't in the mining sector, but a small company from Australia came to us, a small being in quotes, and they asked, okay, we got some issues. We heard this AI thing of yours, maybe can make a difference. Tell us something about it. And then we went to this back room with their engineer, with their process engineer, and she was drawing all the issues, all the problems that they have. And she said, can you help with this? And it was me and another engineer, and we were like, okay, I think we got an idea. And all three of us got back to the manager's room and say, green light. Let's try that. Let's do that. And then it was
magical.
Yeah, magical. That's the word. And
You joined Razor Labs in the beginning of Razor Labs. They were already doing some projects.
Yes.
And you joined it as an algo engineer.
Yep. And yeah.
How many people were you back then?
Vaguely, but maybe I'm wrong. Around 10-ish people.
Yeah.
Something like that. Actually, the story after 7 years, I think the story of Razor Labs from the technological perspective is interesting. You know, how do we get to do what we do, and what's the secret sauce and how to do it? I think technology has a story to tell.
So it reminds me that when I joined Razor Labs a bit less than 2 years ago, I had an onboarding process in which I was scheduled to meet with team members of Razor Labs. And then I met you, and you gave me a proper intro into AI, what AI is, types of AI, where Razor Labs is placed in terms of technology, what other types of AI exist. And that was before generative AI. Remember, it was like a few months before that. And you really, really walked me through different types of technologies and where we are and how we evolved. And then you told me about all the projects that Razor Labs have been working on since the beginning. You were telling me about the deep learning technology. And you told me about how what it changed, what the disruption to the market it was when it matured and what became accessible to the wide audiences to use.
I think the point where, especially in the mining sector, that was super unique is that they got a lot of data. And this data, in many cases, had labels, and they have lots of problems. And if you got data and you got labels, then you can do magic. And they have data labeled like years of data. The
label is like a tag, right? The tag
like
data,
something happened. Is this a
cat or is this a dog? Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
So and they had a lot of data. They had a lot of information, a lot of sensors, but they didn't do much with it. And then they had a lot of issues. So there are many ways to solve a problem. AI or machine learning in general can use this data and can give them the benefits to something that maybe if they would need to, let's say, research for themselves, like in a more classical way, could take much longer and would involve lots of experience, let's say, scientists from the specific niche and everything. So I think the ability to be very flexible with how you solve problems, that what made the AI technology so shiny in the sense of the mining sector.
Just going to backtrack to, you joined Razor Labs 2017. Razor Labs had 10 people in the team.
About
10 people. You were an algo engineer.
Yes.
And you already had 10 years of experience developing about 10 years of
yes, okay.
experience developing algorithms. And what happened then?
When I started working at Razor Labs, as I mentioned, we had like many projects. It was very cool, geeking out and everything. So we were a small company, and we were like project and small groups of people doing project. And it was like let's try and build the R&D department. So it was like a concept. Why work in this disorder? Okay, everybody's very talented and everything, but let's make a group out of those. Let's try and make everybody, try to maybe educate the juniors and take all the data and use the data to build, more stuff. So if you succeeded once, then you can build, your like a tower, like every floor in the tower. So you can build something, and it was a concept. And then we thought maybe let's do that. And some years later, eventually, the R&D department actually materialized to be a department with several groups. And we work on the protocols on how to communicate, how we take one win and make two wins out of it.
How you scale the success.
How to make the knowledge spread evenly in the department. So if one have a great success in terms of knowledge or methods, protocols or whatever, how it it's how to take it so everybody can use it, and how to make tools that every new project we can do faster. So we had this KPIs of how do you know that you're a good manager at the end. So well, you can have like design versus like actual versus planned. That's one KPI, but it doesn't tell the whole story, right? So I guess there are many reasons why people don't finish at time. Maybe it's because they didn't estimate the time correctly. And why do they do that? Maybe they do that because they're not maybe professional enough. Maybe this is their first time. So it made us have those special ways of measuring ourselves and then trying to make this language that will help us to develop. For example, if we get a new task, how can we assess if that's a difficult task? What's difficult anyways? Is difficult not even an option, or difficult it might take 10% more of the time. So we used to have all of those KPIs, all of those methods, and we try to make the, let's say, high level KPIs of performance. We try to excel them. We try to advance them by using all those methods and protocols and discussion we had internally. So we had this, let's say we did a project or a task, develop something, and then we finish on time, and we can also discuss about the quality of what we got. So you got a neural network that's have like a 90% or 95%. So why not 100? Maybe 80. That's pretty enough, or stuff like that. And then we had a retro meeting. So we discussed what worked better than others, and then we used to also make sure that we are updated with what's going on in the academy. So we have those literature reviews every once in a while, and we try to see what kind of codes evolve out there, so we can use them and maybe try to make the difference where the code doesn't exist outside. Obviously, not try to invent the wheel, and so on and so forth. And every era in the Razor Labs, from being a project company all the way to being a product company, the KPI shifted a bit.
How do they shift?
They shifted in terms that when you do projects, then you have to be on time, and the figure of what you need to score is largely, let's say, in a more waterfally kind of concept, is more like what's the bar at the beginning. And when you go to product, especially when you try to have a product fit, then you have a first version of the product, and then you do some changes and you get feedbacks. Those feedbacks are not just technological feedbacks. They're actually user experience. We give them some, for example, let's go to the mining sector, and let's go specifically to the predictive maintenance niche. Something happens to them. Will happen to the machine in 3 months. And next question: where in the machine? Next question, why? Next question, how confident are you? Next question, what if we don't continue in the same pace? And eventually maybe we can add different sensors. So we give a certain answer given the specific hardware and software, but that can change because we actually can control that. And back in the day, Razor Labs was only a software company. But when we got into the mining sector, we got the ability, we did this jump to go into being, I don't want to say a hardware company because we don't develop the hardware ourselves,
Yeah, it's off
but
the
we
shelf.
use. Then you start working with those manufacturers, with those companies, and say, hey, maybe we can have a specific version, just Razor Lab version. So use the same hardware, but let's put a different firmware inside. And maybe if you are developing your next generation of hardware, we got some notes that if it will be pretty cool if you can take and try to manufacture. So it won't be a Razor Lab unit, but maybe Razor Labs used to give this notes to the company. So maybe the next gen could have some Razor Labs hardware inside, so to speak.
It's like development requests
Yes,
from the outside of the company.
and sometimes it actually could be a brand new, like a Razor Labs version. For example, another issue: if you are coming to a site and they say, okay, we have some fixed asset, you got this mill and you got this crusher, so it's like 1, 2, 3, and etc. 20, for example, that might not be a good enough incentive for a hardware company to create a specific hardware just for us. But when you go to the mobile fleet, for example, then you have hundreds. And if you have hundreds, maybe we can have some effect or request to have a specific Razor Labs hardware. So all of this give or take of a small software company working with hardware companies that are pretty giants in their own, and then they say, okay, but we have this connection. Let's make something awesome together. So the company is still software. We're still doing algorithm. That's our bread and butter. But
That's
to
our
say that
core.
we are not involved in hardware, I think that won't be accurate enough. And
So we are a software company, a startup, technological company, and our core is AI. And what you're saying is that we are making waves in the hardware space because of the clients that we're serving.
yeah, exactly.
That's actually something that I never looked at it that way. I always looked at it that we utilize hardware to provide our solutions because we cannot provide our solution without the hardware, and we fuse the data from the sensors. But I never realized that we actually have this feedback loop back to the hardware companies, which are also giant hardware companies.
I just remember
manufacturing
the whole conversation started from how do the KPIs shifted
Yes.
along this. So as I mentioned, the product can develop in various ways. Some of them made us have those like hardware arm, if so to speak, and we have to develop our protocols in the way of communication and to do fast-paced sprints, even with a hardware company, in some way that we can have a POC on the table. So then we can say, okay, this works. We can go to the client and say, hey, look, this is working. Let's advance to the next level because now we can manufacture it. And
how are
that's completely different from being a project company.
That's mind blowing, actually. And how are the sensor companies taking it? The hardware.
They're thrilled. I mean, honestly, I think we have awesome connections with them. It's a win-win conversation because they provide us with awesome hardware and we provide them with information for some industries that maybe they never even tried to put their sensor in, and their sensor are fully qualified to do that.
So looping back on how you utilize the sensors of the sensor manufacturers in non-traditional ways, in the ways that they didn't imagine they would be used.
For example, some manufacturers have this specific filtering for the signal, and they do that because they intend to a specific market niche. For example, I know machines that rotates faster than whatever, like 5 to 10 hertz, etc. But when a new mine site comes to Razor, in many cases, the more boutique machines. Sometimes you need to, for example, take that filter off. Now, filter is filter could be like a simple task, but sometimes when someone is planning a hardware system, the filter actually has a meaning. For example, the filter not only take out the other machines from the niche, sometimes it actually cleans up the data from all the debris that the electronics has, because the specific electronic has debris over there. But maybe if we can take off the filter and account for the electronical debris, then maybe we can use this area anyways. When those sensor companies, they didn't intend for this, not saying intent, but for the general purpose. It's not for R&D. Take the sensor and use it. When you want to take this sensor and make something special about it, then you come to them and say, can you take off the filter, or can you do something else? Can you shut down the other two axes? Stuff like that. They're happy to comply, because if we succeed and we do something pretty cool with their sensors, they actually expand the portfolio. So it's a win-win situation.
That is mind-blowing. That is something that I never ever looked at it that way. Ever. That is actually mind-blowing. So they have quite a nice interest to partner with us and to collaborate with us.
I mean, expanding
I think the value for them is immense, because they're getting so many use cases from the field as we progress also. As we also expand our reach in the market and get installed on multiple more mining sites. Okay, I want to take you back to team management, because for me, you stand out as one of the outstanding team leaders in the company, and you lead a very, very large department, the department that's also constantly growing, and you have a lot of new hires as we grow and expand. And you have a very unique approach to managing R&D teams, and I know that managing R&D teams can be very, very challenging. How do you foster creativity and collaboration within the teams and make sure that everyone's voice is heard while effectively managing such a large department within Razor Labs?
First of all, I think it's a good habit to be engaged in anything you are doing, anything. I think that every journey that you take, if you're fully engaged, awesome stuff can come out of it. As simple as that. And what may start off as a maybe more routine work, sometimes if you curious enough and if you search hard enough, you can find the cool stuff in everything. And that's specific. I don't think it's specific to engineering, but that's one thing that makes people geek out and do more creative stuff, and it also makes people very much involved in the work and take ownership and say that this piece of work is mine, and that's super crucial. So that's like a concept. And then if you're curious and you don't take anything for granted, and everything is maybe interesting and can be done in a very creative, and then you need the, let's say, the management to support this concept in terms of nourishing. That means that you need to give enough space on the one hand, but make sure it doesn't diverge, and eventually we will be on time. But to do that, you need, for example, to make a space where it's okay to ask any question, even one that some would say stupid questions. I hate this term, but I like to use this term because there's many people use this term, but I don't like this term. So I ask a lot of stupid questions because I think those stupid questions sometimes lead to very interesting ideas. And if you're not afraid to ask, and if you give like a personal example and ask those questions, then I hope it makes other people look and say, okay, so if he can ask those stupid questions, and maybe I can ask those stupid questions, and assuming being professional, obviously, and those we need to have a different term than stupid question. Let's say curious questions, right? So if you have curious questions and you try one time and two times, eventually something pops.
Yeah.
And sometimes even the idea is not your own. You can ask the question and then you come to a dead end, but the fact that you ask the question, someone else might just, open up to some new ideas and they ask another question. And this evolution of ideas, this brainstorming is crucial, I think, for problem solving and to be creative. So
So to recap, it's giving the balance to the team members on one space, on one hand, to have space for themselves to develop things and to create things. On the other hand, to maintain that balance of not confusing them and not taking them off the focus. The second is to reinforce the freedom of asking questions, no matter which question.
So it's kind of tricky because if you want to be on time, maybe you don't have any time for being free to think about other stuff. You think of the first idea that actually solves the problem, and then you solve the problem because you want to make sure that you have a safety net. I'm done with it. And then with the time left, maybe you can think to do something else. And I think as all of us evolve, I think we are getting more like self-assured and being more professional. So the regular day-to-day becomes trying new things in a flexible way. There's always this eventually focus on being on time. But you can still do creative stuff even though you're supposed to be on time. And I think the one can actually use this as a KPI. So take, for example, the last 10 tasks that someone did. Let's say in the beginning of a project, when there is, let's say, more flexibility to do new stuff. How many of the tasks were done on time, obviously, and with new concepts or concepts that maybe we tried them before but not that successfully, and for some reason it was making sense to do right now. And you can actually measure that for each engineer. You can say, hey, look, the last 10 tasks that you did on time, none of them are groundbreaking. You did everything on time, but you also have some sort of how good was the task completed. There is a difference between, let's say that you need to just, in an imaginary scale, let's say that over 70 is enough. You can do 70, but you can sometimes do 90. And sometimes when people become more professional, they do 90, sometimes not with trying to very hard, because that would be like their toolbox actually allows that. But in order to do that, somewhere in the past, they need to be very close to 70. They need to let themselves go, still be on time, but trying things that maybe are more creative, and eventually they will have the toolbox to do that.
Trying out new things, allowing themselves to be creative, not having the pressure of being exact or precise or getting the score of 100 out of 100, just experimenting. And then that means that gives them, that empowers them to be closer to 100, to be 90 next time they repeat it.
I think it's similar in a sense to eating a cake. You won't, I mean, cake is a lot of calories, obviously, but you do want to eat the cake. So you will eat a slice. You don't eat the cake. You don't just neglect the cake altogether, and you don't eat the whole cake, obviously, because you will eat a slice of cake. How big is the slice? How big of a slice you will take, right? Where do you put the knife, to take the slice? So it's kind of similar to that.
Okay, so let's talk about the posters.
Let's talk about the posters.
Talking about how you manage the department, I find that your department is one of the most creative departments. You have very, very colorful people. I actually had conversations with a lot of them. I have this tradition where once a month I interview team members, and every time I speak to one of the team members from R&D department, I discovered the wealth of creativity and the depth of people and the diverse hobbies and internal worlds that they have. And I think I really truly think that you're the people from R&D department, the most creative people at Razor Labs, and you actually foster that, and you really encourage creativity, and
We search for them. This
you
is part.
search
This
for them.
is part of the
And you have a tradition,
Yeah.
right? And the tradition goes as follows.
Back in the day, my grandpa used to be finest craftsman of his town. So to award that, they had an image of him with the tool that he was using, and they had its image on a poster for I think a week or so, something like that. And he also got the image, and we got the image back in my grandpa's house. And I was thinking, that's kind of nice. That's kind of nice. A bit maybe just an image with the tool. So that's maybe a bit old fashioned. What could be
A nice
geekier? Yeah,
recognition
a nice
way
and-
to
yeah, and we thought, what? What if we take the engineers, the group that excel in, like, let's say a project or a sprint or something like that, and we can make them superheroes or villains. We'll talk about that in a second. And let's imagine there is let's say a comic book on their, like, telling their story of those superheroes. Just so happens it's like you say Marvel or DC, that there's Razor Labs, right? And let's imagine there is a comic book with that it's on their, it's like they're the superheroes or villains of this comic book. And let's try to imagine the, let's say, version or the issue 45, those superheroes against whatever. And maybe we can imagine the first like the headline of this comic book. Let's do that. Let's do the headline of the comic book on, telling their story of that specific issue. So we went and had some,
found an artist.
Yeah, we found an artist that is, specialized in
comics.
yeah, comics is, and we went to the engineers and said, okay, so tell the story. Let's take your story and what you did in the project and some other stuff that you want, that are part of your character and your personality. He took all of this information, and he was supposed to produce this headline, this first page of the comic book. And we didn't just want this, some sort of a funny, let's say funny image of themselves, like the one that you can, just a simple painting. There's supposed to be some sort of struggle. There's supposed to be a struggle. Something need to happen in this first page so people could buy the issue. Why people buy issues of comic books? Because they see something
There's
very
something
interesting.
unsolved also.
Yeah, unsolved. There's a mystery. And this somehow needs to be revolving the project or the
they
thing
need to
that
reconcile it. They need to understand what's going
yeah.
on.
So it took a lot of time. Every comic, every poster.
How many posters do you have?
I'm thinking 5 to 10, something in this.
And what's the latest? I remember you telling me that you were working on a poster recently.
Yes. So there is this the team of the inspection. Actually, in
yeah, that's the feature of a product that we use to monitor moving high-speed conveyors, right?
yes. So the inspection team, the inspection team engineers, recently put an online hardware plus algorithms plus software system working on a conveyor, on a high-speed conveyor belt, and with like top-notch performance. They did a tremendous work, and it actually took us, I think, years to do that, to get this product,
to get to that expertise,
to get to that product up and running, and take the
just to also explain what we it's a live video analysis.
Yeah, it's a live
right?
video analysis with cameras, high speed cameras that look look on the conveyor belt, and they have this, the product is running on it, and then they can actually detect very fine.
Deviations from rock sizes, right?
So the first version of it, the first version saw the light of day, and it's from an engineering perspective, without getting too emotional, but the moment the machine actually starts to deliver, not a concept, not like a step on the way, actually delivers, working in an online fashion. That's the end goal of many engineering systems. That's the proof that all the hard work, the design and the effort and the passion and everything was eventually all comes down to this.
And is the poster ready?
Absolutely not.
No, right? You told me you were not happy
and
with
it will take a lot of time, because I guess it will take a lot of time, because we're trying to do
You
something. We're trying to be this poster is actually as it's on its own. It's a project that it's a some sort of a I'm not sure if a gift. It's a gift. It's saying to the engineers, we adore you. I mean, that's you did a.
It's beautiful.
That's a tremendous work. So we're gonna put an effort in having this creative piece of art in your name, and it will be cool. It will be awesome, and it will have something cool, the story and everything. And they also are involved in some stages. They approve certain points in the process, so they are actually part of the process.
I personally think that it's such a creative and beautiful way of recognizing effort and recognizing achievements, and I would trade it for many other material things. Personally, I think any creative person would, and I think this is going back to how you foster creativity. I think is one of the ways.
I think that's a creative tribute, but obviously. Not the only one. They are hardworking for the money, and yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Moving to a different topic. AI and machine learning have the potential to transform various industries. We are very active in the space of transformation, digital transformation of mining industry and many other asset-intensive industries. How do you envision AI and machine learning shaping the future of mining and heavy industries?
When people speak about the 4.0
Industry 4.0
revolution, some would say that it's more of a digitization challenge, because some of the machines, although they have the data, it's not centralized in any way. And it's one thing to have the data. It's another thing to make interesting results using the data. Let's say cleaning it and taking all the thing that we do at Razor Labs. And another thing, actually behaving according to the data. And even doing that automatically. So all of those stages, all on its own, have their own, let's say, challenges. So there are many types of, in lack of a better word, systems. There are many systems in a site that needs to be converged into like a more centralized unit system, and then
so you're talking about like SCADA and SAP and SAP,
for example,
another system, they all need to be consolidated.
For example, and then even just taking the data and presenting it, just presenting it in an easy way, so you don't need to go to a headquarters. You can have it on your smartphone, or from your, you can see it from your house. Something convenient. Not
the complicated dashboards that you see there in those multiple screens.
In some places, yeah. In some places, and the data would be available and clean, and so clean. That's another issue. Much of the data is actually, don't want to say rubbish, but lots of it is just very, it's complex. Some of the systems that work perfectly on their own actually when connected to many other system, make the whole system a bit cumbersome. It's not very easy to understand. It's not self-explanatory what's going on in the whole system, or what's important, what's more important, and stuff like that. So that's like,
But how do you envision the technology influencing that? The data will always probably be noisy, no?
so if you would think about ChatGPT, for example, and say, before ChatGPT, and you would say, would you imagine that you can talk to a robot? And then you would say, well, many people talk in different ways, and some of them had bad English, or right, they have a good English, but maybe they don't know how to explain themselves and stuff like that. And somehow someone took this, they have this ChatGPT engine, and it can cope with everything, or most of the thing. And then it also connected to all the information, like a global information. So
So the analogy is that the noise of the data from the mining sector could be understood by the next generation
I
AI technology.
yeah, well, yeah, I believe it could. I believe it could. And I think part of what we do is taking the challenge to a specific predictive maintenance niche, and trying to make sense to all of the data that comes from the machine. And by saying make sense, is that sometimes when something bad happens, that's easy. Something breaks or explodes or whatever, and trying to be more try to be more flexible, trying to understand that there are processes of malfunctioning evolving. Something didn't break already, so there is a process. Maybe you can stop the process. Maybe you can affect the process. Maybe you can slow the process. Maybe you can change it altogether. Maybe you can, do something else. And I think all this information is not, at least for what we experience, is not, it's not easily done. Many of the sites, in order to do something like that, they need to like take a few people that's their job to do a specific, like, it's more like a process oriented thing, and they take a machine and then they investigate it, and eventually it's hard to see the bigger picture. Now when you put your own sensors, and you make sure those sensors are high end, and those sensors are connected to a very good hardware system, and there is an AI that take all of this information, cleans it, and give sophisticated prescription, then that makes a change. I think in many cases people would say, do you actually believe that someone in a mine site would change something just because the system just popped out and say, hey, go and lubricate this and the bearing, because according to what I'm hearing, this is in a bad state? Or someone will stop the machine altogether and replace like the motor just because an AI said, what if it's wrong? It's worth a lot of money, and
yet it's happening.
Sorry.
But this is happening.
Yeah, and so this is happening. It's part of, I think it's part of the mutual evolution of both of them in a funny way. Technology also it's also a win-win. So technology, or the engineers, so to speak, we can actually do better stuff because we have this feedback loop of what makes sense and what gives value, and we have challenges that we need to cope with, and that makes us make technology even better. And the sites, when they are very involved in it, they see how those tools can actually help them. And eventually, at the end, I guess that they would be able to, I think the first ever project that we did in the mining sector, the headline of the project was optimizing site number 1 for this and this, optimizing all the way to the end. They came to Israel, those mining company came to Israel to say, okay, you're AI company, we have a task for you. We want to optimize the site. They went remember the 4.0 and all the process that I mentioned? They went all the way to the end and say, I want to see the ROI at the end. Now this optimizing the yield, it's one ROI, and as time went by, we discovered there are more ROIs that can be optimized. This specific optimization thing, that's also a challenge. But yeah, I guess understanding one step in the right direction. So in summary, this whole process, I think eventually, no, thank you. I guess most of it, I hope it will resemble ChatGPT in that sense. So you can imagine, and remember my saying like from 30 minutes ago, I'm not afraid of saying, stupid, maybe curious stuff, but why not? Why not make a
Stupid analogy.
ChatGPT out of that a full system can take it and clean it and understand it, and then they have all the knowledge of what's going on inside, and eventually saying, no, this is what you need to do.
Meaning the solution is like extremely smooth, extremely easy and intuitive. It's sitting there on the mining side, analyzes constantly what's going on with all the machines on the side, and then just like, hey, with a Scarlett Johansson voice, hey, you have to lubricate your.
Yeah, because
Give me the name of the part.
Because the ChatGPT
Or if you don't do that in 2 weeks from now, it's probably gonna.
Yeah, and it's not because
break down.
It's not because the ChatGPT only communicates with people. It's because it has the data inside.
And do you think it will have the capability of, let's say, like autonomously order like spare parts and schedule work orders for the team members to maintain it?
I hope, yeah. I believe so. Yeah.
That could be awesome.
Yeah. I think the whole concept of AI would say, okay, so maybe it can replace someone, and it's a long philosophical debate that I'm not going to get into, but I can only say what Razor Labs concept is. When we approach those mine sites and the engineers and the process engineers, the question is, how can we help you?
Exactly.
What can we do to make your life easier? And maybe not just easier, better. What's the KPI that you need to excel? And how can we create those tools for you? And then those engineers are so involved in it. And then eventually when they get this tool, it is like a person making a cloth. It's exactly tailor-made.
Bespoke. Yeah. Which actually brings me to the next question. And there's a huge discussion in every single space that AI steps into, especially in traditional industries. A big fear that AI is going to replace human jobs. And the more AI evolves, actually, we see that it probably is not going to replace the jobs. It's probably going to enhance people's capabilities, assist them, and automate a lot of tasks that take a lot of time, and manual tasks that take a lot of time to complete. When we talk about specifically mining industry, there's a huge crisis of manpower. Mining companies struggling with hiring young professionals for the mining sites, and there's a huge shortage of people. And we always say that AI is not going to replace, mining work. Professionals using AI are going to replace mining professionals that are not using AI.
I do think that AI will replace the more routine or tedious, the more routine works
tasks,
would be,
not jobs. You know what I mean?
But for those people, but for those people,
those people will naturally evolve.
Yeah, but for those people, those tasks is their job, and for many reasons, this is the perfect job for them. They are productive humans in a society doing those tasks, and if you're taking those tasks, then what else would they do? And coming from a more, let's take, for example, taxi drivers. What would taxi drivers do? I guess it's fair to say that driving won't be part of, I guess, humanity, the vast majority of humanity in the future. You could still drive cars, but that would be more like, going on vacation, I guess. Right? I guess. Driving is just, around the corner for not giving. A human could drive, but they would prefer not to. So, what would be for the taxi driver to do? So that's a difficult question. That's a difficult question.
And it's not the only one. Some other jobs will replace.
Anyway,
the new jobs will enter the job market or not.
Exactly, but to do that, you need to shift with passion and do all the stuff that thoughtful leaders of a society do, hopefully,
Responsible going on.
responsibly and plan ahead and give proper education and proper opportunity. But it's so philosophical of me to just say, yeah, I hope everybody will be happy at the end. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And moving to another topic, personal insights. You lead the R&D department of Razor Labs. You oversee it. You manage you manage one of the largest teams in the company. What the largest team in the company? There's a great pressure, I think, for us to keep the high level of high pace of development. What motivates you personally in your work, and is there a particular aspect of your role that you find most fulfilling?
That could be a long answer. So first and foremost, I'm an engineer at heart, and I think Razor Labs is both doing cool stuff and also those stuff makes an impact. When I started studying engineering, I had a dream. I think many people have. It's like I don't feel special about it, but I want to create something that have a positive impact on people. Just fell in love with the process and the concept, and I think that as time went by, and I also evolved. So being an engineer, I used to work on a specific project, and then as a team lead, I could oversee other projects, so I can do more stuff and maybe connect them together to make something even bigger. And then working with people and trying to make things, trying to make people more professional and having a nice ecosystem, building a family, something that you can do the impact, so you can invent cool stuff, but it's also very nice to work with them, and then you feel like self-fulfillment, and it's fun and it's creative, and if I as time went by, I felt like, I've got an idea how to do this. Can I try? And as time went by, Raz said, yeah, David, yeah, go ahead, let's try. So the R&D department, or the team and the group, went bigger and bigger, and eventually to the department that we are today. Today the engineers do the cool stuff, as I started in this conversation.
So you fell in love with the company, and that's what keeps you
Yeah, and
motivated?
so
Okay.
it's doing groundbreaking technological stuff, something that has an impact on. We know it has an impact, a positive impact on people, on markets, on the
Industries.
industries, and lots of different ways to expand there. So lots of cool software stuff, algorithmic stuff, hardware stuff, sensor stuff, lots of interesting people to work with and then collaborate with, and then eventually build something even bigger and cooler. It's pretty amazing that we got to a point where we got the Razor Labs hardware in remote locations around the world
And
that
software.
actually take high-end sensors to a high-end hardware, communicate to the cloud, doing high-end
Computing.
algorithms, computing, and eventually everything will be at the palm of the hand of the person, in this case in the mining industry, the predictive maintenance manager. We learned so much about sensors and methods and hardware and algorithms and software, and the architecture changed many times, and we did so many pivots, and this is exciting. All those opportunities, all those, once you have like a foot in the door, so then you have the sensors are there, and then you say, okay, you got the sensor there. What about this challenge? You say, oh, this challenge. What am I going to do with this challenge? You can say, okay, let's do this, and then it evolves, and then it get the attention of other companies, and you naturally evolve, and engineers, some engineers, and then more engineers hear about us, and they say, okay, sounds like a cool place to work. I mean, so many challenges, so diverse, and so they can actually find themselves, and they know that after like 3 years doing the same thing, maybe they can, shift a bit.
I think your passion is extremely infectious. You know, it really, really comes through. You can feel it from kilometers.
So you're joining the R&D department. That's what you're saying.
I personally
We are actually
I
recruiting
personally
right
love
now.
my division. But no, your passion is extremely infectious, and it really always comes through. And I find this alignment of your vision and the founder's vision of using the AI technology to streamline operations across heavy industries and making positive impact on the world. I think it's unbelievable. And you can see that because we see that our solutions have an amazing impact in terms of safety, in terms of operational efficiency, in terms of throughput. Everywhere we're installed, we have numerous examples of that. And it's extremely encouraging and it's extremely inspiring.
That's extremely nice of you to say. I can say that
I'm
know,
not just saying that. I
I
really
know,
mean it.
I'm just acknowledging that, but I'm saying that Raz knows. I think that he can come to the department, to everyone, the engineers, to everyone, and say, guys, I have a new challenge for you. Some say unsolvable. Care to hear about it? Speak out, my friend. Speak out, because that's the spirit.
For those looking to pursue a career in AI and machine learning or R&D leadership, what advice would you offer based on your own experience?
Be engaged, fully engaged, creatively, passionately engaged in everything you get the chance to do. You don't know where it will take you. You don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes. And one thing will evolve to another. Take those chances with both of your hands and try to excel, try to find the creative ways. Be mind the time, be focused, and be professional. Don't just try to jump from one point to another. Pick a track, stick to it. Give it enough time so you have something in your disposal. You have a new tool, and then you can maybe decide to go and do something else. But be professional about it. Try to be thorough. Try to be, into it to the fullest. Try to talk to people that you appreciate are expert in this area. Try to read. Try to do for yourself. Try to do this, like I mentioned earlier, the engineering concept. It's one thing to read about it. It's one thing to write it, and then or write a code about it, and then it's another whole thing to make something work. Something from end to end. Try, at least for yourself, try to evolve through all of those, all of those successes. Try to be very specific regarding your goals. Be flexible about them, but try to be very specific, and then go and try to achieve them. And try to advance through KPIs, things that matter. As I mentioned, things that actually work, not just a concept. The concept is very important. But for example, if you feel that you're not creative enough, or you don't do good enough in brainstorming and stuff like that, then okay, let's focus on brainstorming. What's the KPI for brainstorming? How many brainstorming do I need? So back in the day, for example, if I had a person that I want that he will excel in, for example, design reviews. So you need to ask many questions to be very, on the one hand, very focused on the one hand, but on the other, you're supposed to be very wide in your vision, and you're supposed to be very assertive, maybe a bit cheeky. I don't know, not cheeky. Maybe speak out there. Yeah, exactly.
Not to be shy.
And then that's how you manage, for example, or a design review. But then maybe you say, okay, maybe I'm the one that actually developing, that I'm trying to pass this design review. So let's count how many design reviews I passed successfully. What's my grade at the end of the what's my mark at the end of the design review? How people were involved in the conversation. Try to be very be engaged in the process of trying to understand if you evolve. Be nice to people, be passionate, and try to remember that, at least as I perceive it, technology is supposed to help make something better,
Better.
and sometimes for everyone, technology can be, it could look complex, or for some people it could even look frightening. And just remember that the top engineers, smartest people alive, used to say that all the most complicated concept could be explained very easily. And it's so that also could be a KPI of how you understand it and how you perceive it.
And my last question, what's next for Razor Labs and what excites you most about the future of the company?
As I mentioned, technology can tell the story of Razor Labs, but Razor Labs is not just technology. Razor Labs is also business, and it's also opportunities, and it's also many other stuff. So I think every department can answer this a bit differently. Um, I would say that everything I described in this conversation, I guess that trying the more sophisticated, the harder challenges in the mining sector will eventually become a boutique portion of the
Company.
product. That's one. I guess there will be more of a let's say intermediate solution for, let's say, the maybe less complicated challenges. I think the mobile fleet, that's an very interesting niche that we are getting in, because the fixed asset had some high-end algorithms, sensors, stuff like that that evolves over the years. Now the mobile fleet had some issues with sensors and placing and stuff like that actually it feels like it, at least to what we discovered so far, prevented those industries from getting evolving in the same, let's say, in the same technological space as the fixed asset, but they have a lot in common. And as time goes by, the hardware is getting better, and putting stuff on a truck is not as challenging as before. And if we can get the high-end sensors technology from the fixed asset and have, some changes, but eventually to the mobile fleet, there are much more trucks than
Fixed assets.
the fixed asset. And I think that in terms of impact, I think when you go to a mine site and then you get
Also-
10 machines, 20 machines out of all, but then you get like 100 trucks of the whole mine site. That's a different level of
Yeah.
impact.
We're talking about hundreds of thousands of vehicles that could be more energy efficient, that could break down less.
Yeah.
That could be a huge impact.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
talking about Razor Labs' future, you're saying that mining industry will be a bit more boutique, that will be installed across many more other.
I think the press. So I guess Asaf is the one to ask, but I think that let's call it the Razor Labs R&D for the more complicated challenges. That's one. There is this, everything that we achieve there and becomes a commodity will be part of the normal solution that we actually put everywhere. And there is the mobile fleet thing.
Thank you so much for this conversation. I really enjoyed it. There's a lot to unpack.